There was an individual who got involved, Condon, who supposedly met to receive or to pass off the ransom money. Never identified Hauptmann as that particular person. Um,
Actually, he did.
well, yeah, explain to
Originally, he
us. Right,
didn't.
he flipped on that. So explain to us
Right.
why that's important in your analysis.
Well, it's important that neither Condon nor Lindbergh could identify Hauptmann as Cemetery John, the fellow um, that Condon said he met in the cemetery in the Bronx to exchange $50,000 in recorded ransom notes money for a note telling him where the child should be found, which turned out to be a wild goose chase. But Condon spent an hour with Cemetery John at one cemetery, a Woodland Cemetery, earlier in March, and then came back on April 2nd and met with Cemetery John again in a different cemetery, St. Raymond's. So he had described to the police what this fellow looked like. And the first time that he saw Hauptmann in the Bronx before the grand jury, he said, "This is not the fellow," essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but he couldn't identify him. And Lindbergh said, "I was sitting in a car 200 feet away outside of the cemetery, and I heard this fellow shout out to 'Hey, Doc,' or 'Hey, Doctor,' and I'm not sure I could ever recognize that fellow." At trial, though, just a few months later, Lindbergh said it was Hauptmann. He recognized the voice. On appeal from the death penalty that the jury awarded, Hauptmann's attorney, Fisher, replicated the event by having someone sitting in a car 200 feet from St. Raymond's Cemetery, and there was no way that a fellow could hear someone clearly unless they shouted, which would make their voice different than it would be normally. And also, 2.5 years later, nobody could do that. You couldn't even do it probably a month later.
Right.
So that was not, it wasn't possible. So the identification at trial that Lindbergh did prompted Condon to change his testimony and say, "Yes, I identify Hauptmann as Cemetery John." And it was totally contradictory to what he had said more than once before.